My mind is like a whirlwind, tossing around every thought, every feeling, every possibility, until it feels like I'm drowning in a sea of confusion and doubt. How do you stop when there's so much to untangle? It's like my mind is running a marathon, each step faster than the last, and all I can do is watch as it races towards an unknown finish line. The weight of my thoughts feels so heavy, but I can't seem to let them go. I feel like my mind is 1,000 puzzle pieces scattered everywhere, and no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to fit them together. Every thought feels more fragmented than the last, and it's driving me to the edge. Every idea, every question, every what if loops endlessly in my head, refusing to be silenced. It's like a constant echo that grows louder the more I try to ignore it, until the noise becomes unbearable. Sometimes it feels like my thoughts are spiraling out of control, taking me down paths I don't want to go, yet I can't stop walking them. The more I overthink, the more it feels like my brain is about to collapse under its own weight. I wish I could just press pause on my thoughts to stop the constant cycle of analysis, fear, and doubt. But it's like trying to catch smoke with my hands. Every time I think I've got a grip, it slips away again. Overthinking is like trying to solve a puzzle with pieces that don't fit. Every time I think I have an answer, a new question arises, making me feel like I'll never escape the cycle of uncertainty. It's exhausting, feeling like you're on the edge of clarity, yet always a step away from it. My mind races with every scenario, every outcome, and it's like I'm chasing something that's always just out of reach. I can feel my thoughts stacking up like bricks, building a wall around my sanity. The more I try to tear it down, the higher it gets, and it feels like I'm trapped in my own mind with no way out. Overthinking isn't just a habit, it's an overwhelming force that hijacks my mind. It's as if every thought is a tidal wave, crashing into the next, until I'm submerged in a sea of endless worry. When I overthink, I feel like I'm stuck in a loop, endlessly replaying the same scenarios, the same mistakes. It's like I'm locked in a room with no door, searching for an exit that I can't seem to find. Every thought I have feels like a knot in my mind, tangled tighter with each passing moment. I try to loosen it, to make sense of it, but it's like the harder I try, the more tangled everything becomes. I feel like my mind is a labyrinth of thoughts and emotions, each corner turning into another question, another doubt, until I'm lost in a maze that feels impossible to navigate. It's overwhelming living in a mind that's constantly analyzing, second guessing, and questioning. I can't seem to escape the cycle, and every moment spent overthinking feels like a piece of my peace is chipped away. I've learned that overthinking isn't always about finding answers. Sometimes it's just a desperate attempt to make sense of a world that feels too chaotic, too uncertain, and too fast. Overthinking makes everything feel bigger, scarier, and more confusing than it really is. The problem isn't the situation, it's the way my mind magnifies it, turning it into a mountain I can't climb. In my head, every possibility seems like a threat, every outcome a disaster. I can't stop running through scenarios in my mind, each one more overwhelming than the last. I'm trying to slow down, to breathe, but my mind won't let me. It's like a whirlwind of thoughts, emotions, and worries, and the harder I try to find calm, the faster it spins. Overthinking feels like a never-ending debate inside my mind. Every thought I have gets scrutinized, analyzed, and questioned until I'm not even sure what I believe anymore. It's like my thoughts are on a never-ending treadmill, running at full speed, and I can't seem to get off. I feel exhausted, but the thoughts keep coming and I can't stop them. I feel like I'm trapped in an endless cycle of what ifs, each one more intense than the last. No matter how many times I play out the scenarios in my head, I can't find an answer that feels right. Overthinking is like trying to find a needle in a haystack made of confusion. Each thought is a new possibility, a new chance, but I can't seem to find the right one. And it's maddening. My mind is cluttered with a million different thoughts, and none of them seem to fit together. The chaos is suffocating, and I can't seem to find a way to make sense of it all. Every little decision feels monumental when I'm overthinking. The smallest choice becomes a mountain, and it's hard to take a step forward when I'm paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong one. Overthinking is like an endless loop that I can't break free from. The more I think, the more I wonder, and the more questions I have. It's like I'm chasing my own tail, trying to find an answer that keeps eluding me. I'm trapped in my own thoughts, constantly replaying moments in my head, looking for the hidden meaning, the missing but that will make everything click. But all I'm left with is more questions. Sometimes I feel like I'm being consumed by my thoughts. It's like they're all I can think about, all I can focus on, and it feels like there's no room for anything else in my mind. Overthinking is exhausting, draining every ounce of energy I have. My mind races, my heart races, and I feel like I'm running a marathon I never signed up for. I wish I could quiet the storm in my head. Every thought is a drop of rain, falling faster and harder until the downpour becomes a flood and I'm struggling to keep my head above water. Overthinking isn't about thinking too much, it's about feeling too much. Every thought becomes a flood of emotions, and I can't seem to stop the current from pulling me under. It's like every thought has a ripple effect, each one causing the next, until the whole lake of my mind is churning with anxiety, doubt, and fear. The more I try to calm the water, the more it swells. Overthinking is my mind's way of holding on to the past and fearing the future. I can't seem to let go of what happened, and I'm terrified of what might happen, and it's all too much. In moments like this, I feel like my thoughts are too loud. It's as if they're screaming in my mind, refusing to let me focus, refusing to let me breathe. I'm running circles in my mind, chasing every thought, every doubt, every fear. The faster I go, the further away the answers seem, and I can't seem to catch up to my own mind. My thoughts are like a jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces, and every time I try to put them together, I realize there's no solution, just more questions, more confusion. I can't stop thinking. It's like my brain is working overtime, constantly analyzing every little thing, overcomplicating the simplest moments, and leaving me feeling exhausted. Overthinking is like being caught in a web of doubt and worry. The more I try to untangle myself, the more I get stuck, and it feels like there's no way out. I wish I could just stop, but my mind refuses to let me. It's like a car racing down a hill with no brakes, and I'm just along for the ride, holding on to whatever I can. Every scenario feels important. Every decision feels heavy. When I'm overthinking, I can't help but feel like I'm making everything harder than it has to be. Overthinking isn't just about worrying, it's about feeling trapped by your own thoughts. It's like I'm in a maze with no way out, and each thought leads me further into the walls. I wish I could quiet the storm in my head. It's like the winds of doubt and fear are constantly howling, drowning out everything else, and I can't seem to find peace. My mind is a storm of emotions, each one battling for control. I feel like I'm caught in the middle, trying to make sense of the chaos, but it just keeps swirling faster and faster. Overthinking is like wearing glasses that magnify every little detail, making everything seem more complicated than it really is. It's hard to see clearly when everything is so distorted. I'm trapped in a mental maze, endlessly searching for the right way out. But the more I think, the more confused I become. It's like there's no clear path forward, just dead end and more questions. The more I try to analyze, the more overwhelmed I feel. It's like I'm standing in the middle of a tornado, spinning around with no control, and every thought feels like another gust of wind knocking me off balance. I feel like I'm constantly fighting with my own thoughts, trying to make them stop, trying to make them make sense. But no matter how hard I try, they won't let me go. Overthinking is like trying to solve a mystery that isn't even mine to solve. I keep digging, keep searching, but all I find are more questions and no answers. It feels like my mind is a broken record, playing the same thoughts over and over again. And no matter how many times I try to skip to the next track, it keeps coming back. Sometimes I wish I could shut my brain off just for a moment of peace, but it's like my thoughts have a life of their own and they refuse to be silenced. Overthinking makes everything feel like a decision that could change everything. Every choice feels like it's weighted with meaning, and it's hard to move forward when you're paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong one. My mind is like a web of tangled thoughts, each one pulling me in a different direction. The more I try to make sense of it, the more I feel myself getting lost in the maze of my own mind.